Hello, everyone. Welcome to something a little bit new and different for me, at least. I'm going to be trying to run a turn uh, in the play by email game I have going on and be doing commentary over that instead of posting the screenshots. The screenshots take, honestly, me a long time. It's just kind of tedious to put all of them together into the AAR to sort them out by what theater and add that commentary. So I figured as I play through a turn, why not just talk over it? The first thing you're going to notice is, of course, that I do not have the dulcet tones of XTRG or other game commenters. Have a more of a kind of a nasally sharp voice, and I apologize about that. And my microphone isn't quite as good, so you're going to hear about a lot of terrible mouth noises, and I again apologize about that. But to get us started off here, we are going through the turn. First thing that happens, of course, is a little invasion action off of Guam. This is good to see. I've been worried about my opponent's ability to take bases, and I've been saying for a few turns now that he needs to bring more AAV to Guam. He's just done so and has landed a few more troops. They take a little bit of damage as they get off on the beach. That's to be expected. One thing that I expected, though, that we didn't see is he didn't bring any battleships or other big big surface warships to help bombard, which could have helped him out here to disrupt my troops and cover those landings. A little bit of air action over Changsha. He's sweeping the hex there. I used to have some fighters stationed there. I've now pulled them back to Chongqing, so he's not going to find anything there. You may notice that things go a little bit faster in the turn than you may be used to seeing. It's the way I like to run my turns. I do it with a very small delay, and that's because otherwise it can take a very, very long time to run through the turn. I like to see all the details when I actually go into my turn and I can play around with things, not when I'm doing the replay. Bombing, not much damage. And again, the infamous Singapore sweeps. We've got two groups of Oscars here, 1Cs and 1Ds. 1Cs are actually doing the sweeping, while that squadron of 1Ds, I'm fairly sure, is what they're doing is long-range cap. So they're stationed long-range cap at a high altitude. The 1Cs go in usually at a lower altitude. My planes vector on to the sweeping group at the lower altitude. The long-range cap at the higher altitude then gets a dive down on my combat air patrol. One thing that you'll see here is it looks like on the combat replay that I've brought a lot of fighters to the party. You'll see like 45 Buffaloes in that combat replay. When we actually look at the Allied aircraft on the actual combat report, that number is much, much less. We only see 2 Buffaloes. And that's because I have a lot of those Buffaloes on a training mission. They'll show up in the combat replay, but they don't actually contribute anything unless they get caught up in the combat, which is something that usually doesn't happen. In any case, we trade an Oscar for MS-410. It's a 1D. It's an even trade. I'll take it. We have a little bombing here over my troops north of Aichang. They were just forced out of that hex, and now we're going back and forth in the air, but his bombers all make it through, and I lose one of those fighters. This is not an even trade. These French BR-697s are great long-range, heavy twin-engine fighters. And that long range is something that not a lot of Allied planes have early in the war, so they're really valuable for this kind of long-range cap mission that they can do. Unfortunately, this is a squadron that was really beat up down at Quangchawan, and I brought it back up here into the Chinese theater, and that squadron obviously isn't quite ready for prime time yet, not putting a lot of planes in the air, and getting one shot down. So we're going to let them recover a little bit longer, I think. In any case, only moderate damage to my troops. They're in really good terrain, some wooded rough terrain, which makes it hard for him to bomb. I've got some bombing runs going to Singapore. I'm probably targeting my airfields here. Again, you see a lot of planes in this combat replay. It doesn't actually mean all my planes are going to be engaging in combat because, like I said, most of them I have on training missions, specifically so they do not engage in combat. But it also gets those planes off the ground when we do a training mission, which means when he bombs the Hex, I'm not going to have as many airframes on the ground to be destroyed. Good contact with these bombers, that's always great to see. You see a few go down, but still a few make it through. No losses on my part, just a couple airbase and runway hits, and we down 3 twin-engine bombers. I'll take it. Bombing over I-Ching again, going after some troops. He'll be coming after that Hex in Western China soon. Looks like my cap is there, but not intercepting for some reason, which is strange because if I remember, patrol altitude 1300, that seems high. He's coming in at 7,000 feet. I may have just set those a little bit too high to intercept. Going after Nanyang. Not much there for him to bomb, though. Another bombing run. No long-range cap this time, which means I only have to deal with these escorting fighters, and I should make some better contact with those bombers. Though it's a large bombing run. 30 bombers coming in over Singapore. Some Oscars going down. Let's see what happens here. Speeding it up. Take some losses with my BR-697s, which is never fun. So 24 bombers get above the target. Not something we want to see, doing some damage on the ground. Little after bombing intercept, which is nice to see. Overall, a positive outcome for me. So we've got what looks to be 8 destroyed planes. 7 of them bombers. Good to see. Looks like I lost 3 fighters and 2 damaged, and the airbase really came out okay. All that damage will be cleaned up tomorrow. Some Marines going down with a sweep. Again, we have these 2 different Oscar units over the base, one sweeping and one doing that long-range, high-altitude cap. My BR-697 is really taking it on the chin this turn, and those fighter pools are almost non-existent. So, another reason why I need to pull back all my fighters from Singapore. Let's finish this up. Not a good outcome for me. 5 fighters down, only one of those 1B Oscars destroyed. I would have much rather taken down one of the 1Ds. That's fine, though. Like I said before, I'm pulling all of these fighters out of Singapore this turn. All my naval assets out of Singapore as well. I have great anti-aircraft artillery in this Hex, and I have enough engineers that I'm not worried about being able to repair any damage that happens and to continue building forts here. It's at Forts 4 right now. I'd rather be at Forts 5 right now, but I have some time. If you look at Malaya up here, he's still way far in the north. He's not even coming down these main roads yet. So I have at least 2 weeks, maybe longer, before he's going to make his way down, which is going to be enough time to get to Forts 5. And I really don't need to protect the Hex by air anymore. I have enough anti-aircraft artillery. I'm not using it as a main naval base. So everything can pull down to Palembang, pull down to Java, and I can conserve my aircraft. Another bombing run. Good contact with bombers, I'd like to see it. Nice. What is that? 5 bombers down. I lose nothing. I'll take it. 37 Lilies. They're at Changte, but only damaged Lilies, no damage to my troops. Get some bombing in China that's not doing a lot of damage right now. Now, 40 zeros. This is not something that I like to see. Zeros have a higher ceiling than Oscar's, which means that high altitude sweeps like this can really be painful. They also have a higher top speed. And yeah, 4 of my planes go down, not taking any one of his zeros with them. That's why zeros can be so dangerous in the sweep roll early game, before the Allies have really anything that has maneuverability, ceiling, or speed to compete with it. Some bombing over Guam. Do no damage whatsoever. Looks like one of my subs was bombed there. You just saw a flash of a little animation north of Borneo there. Some sweeps, it looks like, over Philippines, but I don't have any planes there, so the sweeps aren't going to do anything. Again, I took all my planes out of Luzon, and I moved them down to Cebu. Just like at Singapore, I'll let the anti-aircraft artillery do the work. I really don't have to protect anything in those hexes right now. I'm really happy with my defensive position. In the Philippines right now, I have over actually nearly 900 AV in Manila right now. I've got that division that I hoovered up with my PBY Catalinas into Bataan, heading there now. So I'll have well over 1,000 AV in that hex, and I'll also have over 1,000 AV in Clark Field as well. Both of them have really good supply right now. Manila actually generates a little bit of its own supply, being a big city. So I am happy with that defensive position. It looks like he has about 2,000 AV on its way to Clark Field. I think I can hold it off. We're going to see. At least for now. It's going to fall eventually, let's be honest, but we'll see. So, attack at north of Aichang. These are the forces that he forced out earlier. He's got some big units here, some big infantry divisions. My Chinese corps are pretty beat up. And the thing that is rough about that force there is he has an armored car company, and it looks like a, let's see what he brought, a tank regiment as well. That hard AV is very difficult for the Chinese troops to deal with. They don't really have any counter. However, in this case, it really went my way. He brought more AV than me, but the terrain changed the odds, so it was a 1-2, and he loses 2,080 casualties. I lose 562, but this is a little bit deceiving, and that's the one thing about reading combat reports that you have to key into, is that a big factor here is not the total number of casualties, but the individual destroyed squads and devices. In this case, I lose 27 destroyed squads. Those are not going to come back unless I get these troops into a well-supplied area near a base hex, and they can start to replenish those squads from the pool. Whereas these disablements, they can come back just with a little bit of rest and supply. They're much easier to recover disablement, and it doesn't take anything out of the pool either. It's not going to draw down from that limited supply. So I can run out of squads, but recovering disabled squads isn't going to do that. So in this case, he takes 143 disabled, but only 5 destroyed. These 27 destroyed squads on my end hurt a lot more. 7 destroyed vehicles, that's nice to see. On the 37 disabled, those won't be able to attack for a little bit of time, so that's good to see. Little attack up in the mountains here. There's a few of these conflicts he's trying to force me out of these northern approaches to Sian and Lanchao. I'm going to have to move some blocking forces in the way because he can cut off northern China. If he makes it to Lanchao, makes it to Sian, there's some good industry up in northern China that flows supply to the rest of the country. And if he blocks that, it really puts a damper on what I can do in China. Attack north of Qingting. This is the mountains again. He's brought about twice as much AV as I have, but again, the train turns that into odds in my favor. Still not a great result for me. He loses 25 squads, disabled 8, take 35. So my combat is going to be more diminished than his is at the end of the day. And a little bit of bombardment at Guam. See, he's brought some artillery with him and some special naval landing forces, which I think he needed to oust my troops here, so that was probably a good decision on his part. I auto-bombard back, it looks like. And I think that's about it for the turn. Very new for me, a little bit rough. Let me know if I explained things a little too much or not enough, but I hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.